Sometimes we come across very rare formations, which I've only seen in a few of these structures. Here is one example. We're at a height now pretty close to ground level, so it's about 320 meters. We just use the ruler. And the actual, again, this is a common type of structure where there's tens of thousands of these. It's actually an excavation. It's 160 meters wide from one point to the other. We have a crater of this excavation. It's very hard to see the bottom ever in these. On one side we always have the very large rod towers. Again, I'll do measurements on these, so I'll just pick the one there roughly. So they're about 70 meters, which is 25-story structure. So they're fairly large. Here on Earth, that would be probably one of the largest buildings in Sydney. So we're not talking about small things. What we have here is, again, common structure, and on the other side we'll see a very fine rod edge on the opposite side. And usually there's one internal rod, so there's one there as well. And we'll see the zigzag structures. What we have here is, I've only seen one other example. We have like a flat, opaque, flat grey platform around it, which always is at right angles or triangles, so it doesn't look like a natural crystalline formation or anything like that. And what we have here is the width in this case is it's about 40 meters. So again, we're not talking about small things. So again, it seems to extend from the edge of the excavation. You've got zigzag patterns. There it is, and it enlarges. It goes around. And again, it'll be a typical tower, but not for this platform around it, which is a unique flat single colour structure that goes around the edges. Now this I've seen elsewhere as well, and this would be number 1473, so we'll just go there at the moment. So this was picked up by one other 1473, one other I'll call them moon scanners. That was the ID, the lunar colony, also picked that up. Now his view was this triangular structure here. He called it a stealth craft, but obviously it's not. It's a platform that extends around these structures, which again here is similar. We've got a group of rods on one side of the excavation. There's usually one or two in the middle, and we've got that zigzag ring pattern on the opposite side. And here we have an excavation or courtyard around the rods. Now in this case the rods are very luminous, so they're actually emitting energy rather than just reflecting sunlight. So it could be an energy source. Now that is similar where it's a flat structure. It's a greyish colour. There seems to be a platform or a very flat area around the structure. So I've only seen this in one or two examples. What these flat opaque grey areas are, I don't know, but in this case it forms a triangle and a little square area inside. If we choose any other area where these structures are found, generally we don't see this flat platform area around it. Normally we see, I'm just trying to find an excavation, that one there. Again, we see the same structures happening in all these things. We've got large rod towers on one side, very large excavation and internal rod, and a very opaque, a very fine line on the other side. But normally they've got excavations around it, like this one here. It's very square and rectangular, flat area. It's a darker inside, so it could be condensation in the lower areas accumulates if there is any moisture there, because obviously it's a very light shaded green. As we go further we see different shades of green. The green, obviously the closest thing on Earth that we know that's green is a vegetation. So again, it's fairly rare, but again, if we go to this area here, we see these type of grey single colour areas around these structures, and we can see it there as well, but not to the extent of the first one that I actually went down on very closely. That was about 40 metres wide. So again, if we pick any area, for instance this one here, from high up we're about 2 kilometres as we zoom in. Buildings on one side, zigzag fine ones on the other, usually excavations, usually a courtyard square area around it's been flattened. Same here as well. These could be living areas, I don't know. But we don't see that platform type effect that we saw in those special 2 examples. So I'm just gliding randomly above these. Here we see the luminous ones that emit obviously light or energy. That happens here as well, but it's very rare to see those very wide grey platforms or areas around. Extremely rare. So that's just sort of gliding above the ground, trying to spot these areas that we spotted before. Here we have a very dense group, so I'll try to use that principle here. Obviously there's a lot of zigzag structures happening, towers, but very rare to see that type of platform effect. Here that they're becoming very dense, very low resolution actually. From high up, 2.5 kilometres, we found something that we could be in luck with to find one more of these structures that show this sort of larger platform or grey area around it. We could be seeing one there. So we've got a system of towers on one side, we've got the zigzag very fine towers on the other, we've got excavations happening around it that are darker, but it could be just that area there. It seems to be like a grey flat platform around it, but it's not that clear as the other examples. Here we've got some more. They're all the same type of formations. All these craters always have towers on one side and a zigzag pattern on the other, except one that we found previously that had very large towers on one and the other side. That was just one case out of these tens and thousands that I've seen that actually was not the typical one. So generally they all follow the same trend, and you do have one or two that are not the same as the others. I can't explain why or the purpose of the excavations or the reason for the towers on one side, but obviously they all seem to follow that type of construction.